The moment I realized my own family had handed out my work schedule like a flyer was the same moment something inside me snapped. Quietly, cleanly, like a thread pulled free from an old sweater. I was sitting at my desk in the payroll office, double-checking end-of-year audits, when an email popped up from an address I didn't recognize. Following up regarding the late fee for your parents' unit. I froze. I hadn't given anyone permission to contact me at work. And yet there it was, my full work email, my hours, even best time to reach her, all listed as if I were their personal assistant, or worse, their bank. I felt heat rising in my chest. My mother's voice echoed in my head. Family helps family, Tasha. Don't be selfish. And my father's classic follow-up. You're blessed with a good job. It's your duty to look out for your own people. But nothing prepared me for realizing they had skipped past guilt and marched straight into violating my boundaries without hesitation. Destiny must have been in the back, hyping them up, calling me banker girl the way she always did, laughing like it was cute while she shoved another bill into my hands. I stepped into the hallway, the buzzing fluorescent lights vibrating above me as I dialed my mother. Why does your landlord have my work schedule? My voice came out too calm, too steady, like my anger was organizing itself the same way I organize spreadsheets, column by column, clean and exact. Loretta sighed dramatically. Tasha, don't start. We were handling a fee and he needed to reach you. No, he didn't. It wasn't my bill. And for the first time, I heard the thinness in her excuses. What matters is it got paid, she snapped, irritated that I wasn't falling in line. I felt something twist in me, grief mixed with clarity. Y'all crossed a line, I whispered, and you know it. My father chimed in from somewhere in the background, voice booming like a judge handing down a sentence. If you weren't being so difficult about helping your own family, none of this would have been necessary. Necessary? I repeated. You handing out my personal information without permission was necessary? Destiny's voice suddenly popped through on speaker. Lord, here she go. You act like you being drained dry. It's just money, banker girl. My hand started shaking, but not from fear, from recognition. They weren't confused. They weren't overwhelmed. They were entitled. When I told them all three of them owed me respect, the call dissolved into chaos, accusing me of being ungrateful, even Destiny yelling something about her new apartment deposit like I had ruined her life by saying no. And when I hung up, shaking, they sent a group text so cold I had to reread it twice. We need distance. Stop contacting us. Tears pricked my eyes, but not from heartbreak, from the shocking, peaceful calm that settled over me. I didn't respond. Not yet. But I knew this wasn't the end. Families like mine didn't let go of a good resource without a fight. I could already feel the storm gathering behind their silence, and I was nowhere near ready for what came next. I thought the silence after that group text would tear me apart. After all, my whole life had been built around keeping the peace, smoothing the wrinkles, and making sure everybody else stayed comfortable, even if it meant I stayed exhausted. But instead of anxiety, what settled over me felt almost like stillness, a quiet I had never been allowed to hear before. And maybe that's why, when Uncle Ray called 3 days later, I answered on the first ring, even though my heart was already bracing itself for another blow. Niece, he said, voice low and gravelly, you sitting down? I closed the cabinet where I'd been organizing my pantry just to keep my hands busy. I'm standing. What's going on? He exhaled slowly, and I could tell he was choosing his words. Your mama and daddy, they packing up. Looks like they moving at the house. My breath hitched. It wasn't shock, not really. My family had been slowly backing away from me for months, withdrawing into their own private alliance. But hearing that they were physically leaving, slipping away like tenants sneaking out in the night, that carved something sharp into my chest. "They didn't tell me anything," I whispered. "I know," Uncle Ray said gently. "That's why I'm calling you. They told the rest of the family some story about you turning your back. But I know you, Tasha, and I know when folks try to twist things." I leaned against the kitchen counter. "What did they say?" "That they need space from your, attitude." His voice dripped with disbelief. "Meanwhile, I'm watching Elijah toss boxes in the truck labeled with things you bought them, still in the packaging, not even opened." My stomach dropped. I'd spent years buying things they said they needed. Kitchen appliances, a new vacuum, sheets, lamps, all those little things that would make life easier for them. And they've been sitting untouched, shoved in a closet until now, when the only purpose they seemed to serve was to fill up moving boxes. "Ray, why would they leave without telling me?" My voice cracked in a way I hated. He paused. "Because they knew you'd ask questions they don't want to answer." I swallowed hard. Something cold moved over me, a realization settling like dust. I was never part of the plan unless money was involved. "Can I come by?" I asked him. "I'm already on my way. Got some things of yours they left behind, and I just didn't want you finding out from somebody else." That's why Uncle Ray had always been different. He didn't take, he didn't guilt, he didn't treat me like a walking ATM. He showed up. When he arrived, he carried a small box inside, setting it on my dining table. This was in the pile of things they said they didn't need. I opened it slowly. Inside were receipts, neatly paper-clipped, color-coded, my handwriting on every single one. I'd organized them over the years because I needed to keep track of how much I was giving out. Rent payments, car notes, groceries, security deposits, utility bills, streaming subscriptions, even pet food for the dog Destiny got on a whim and then ignored. I touched the stack, and a painful memory surfaced. Me sitting at my childhood dining room table at 16, trying to balance their overdue bills on a calculator because my father said responsibility builds character. He meant my character, never theirs. Uncle Ray studied me. "You all right?" "No," I said honestly, "but I'm finally understanding." "Understanding what?" "That the distance they asked for." I inhaled slowly, then released it. "It's freedom. They just don't realize it yet." He nodded like he'd known I'd say that. "You deserve better than being everybody's safety net." I stared at the receipts again. All those years of paying for their lives, funding apartments I never slept in, buying furniture I never sat on, saving credit scores that weren't mine. And for what? To be discarded the second I stopped being convenient? I felt a shift inside me, like my spine was straightening, like the fog was clearing. "I think it's time," I murmured. "For what?" "To give them exactly what they asked for. Distance." That night, I sat at my desk with my laptop open, fingers hovering over the keyboard. The group chat sat at the top of my screen, unread messages from days ago still glaring at me. "We need distance. Stop contacting us." My therapist, Dr. Hayes, always told me, a boundary is only real if you enforce it. And my partner Jamal, who'd been watching me crumble under this family weight for years, sat beside me with his hand on my knee. "Do what you need to do, babe. I'm right here." So I typed. Slowly, calmly, precisely. "I'm honoring your request for distance. Effective immediately, I will no longer be handling payments for housing, utilities, or subscriptions. You have 30 days to transfer the accounts into your names. After that, all automatic payments will be canceled." I reread it. It was clear, respectful, final. I hit send. The response came 30 seconds later, 5 long messages in a row, each more frantic than the last. And the last one made my blood run cold. Tasha, if you do this to us, you are no daughter of mine. My breath caught because I knew this was only the beginning of the storm about to hit me. But I didn't know just how low they were willing to go. The storm hit faster than I expected. 30 minutes after I sent that message, my phone vibrated so relentlessly it felt like it might slide right off the table. The group chat lit up with my family's panic, anger, and desperation, braided together into something ugly. Something that had clearly been living under the surface for years, just waiting for me to stop complying. Elijah's first message came in hot. So this is what we get for raising you? You punishing us for everything we sacrificed? Sacrificed? My father hadn't paid a bill on time since I was 12. I stared at the words, feeling my heartbeat thud against my ribs like it was trying to get out. Then Destiny jumped in, her text coming through so fast the screen could barely keep up. Wow, you're really doing this? You know I can't cover the car payment on my own. I could get evicted. Do you even care? All over some attitude problem? My phone buzzed again. Loretta, you're acting vindictive. We asked for space, not abandonment. The word abandonment hit me like a slap. Sharp, deliberate, dishonest. Because that was exactly what they were doing to me, yet somehow they claimed the role of the wounded. I set the phone down and pressed my palms to my temples. Jamal rubbed my back gently, his presence grounding me. They're unraveling because the system is unraveling, he murmured. It doesn't mean you're wrong. I knew he was right. I knew it in my bones, but it didn't make the messages easier to read. The narrative they were weaving was clear. I wasn't their daughter. I was their provider. And the second I refused to keep the machine running, they called it betrayal. I picked up the phone again, not to respond, but to screenshot everything. My therapist had taught me to document emotional manipulation, and this was textbook. A new message came in from Destiny. If something happens to me because of you, that's on your conscience. The audacity made me let out a sound between a laugh and a cry. Destiny, the same sister who bought a $600 wig while I was paying her insurance, now trying to guilt trip me with imaginary dangers? I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the file on my desktop labeled Budget Resources. Templates I'd made for clients at work, clean spreadsheets with categories for housing, food, transportation, emergency funds, adult tools for adult responsibilities. I uploaded them into the chat with one final message. Here are budgeting tools and community resources. I'm stepping back now, just as you asked. I wish you all clarity and accountability moving forward. They didn't want clarity. They wanted control. The typing bubbles appeared instantly, popping in and out like fireworks, rage fireworks. Elijah sent a voice note next, his tone condescending and thunderous. So this is what we get for raising you? You punishing us for everything we sacrificed? You think you're better than this family because you got a good job? You need to humble yourself, girl. I didn't play the rest. I deleted the voice note. Some things didn't deserve space in my ears. My chest tightened with something sharp, fear mixed with freedom, grief tangled with relief. It was disorienting feeling these contradictions all at once, but underneath it all was something steady, a faint but undeniable truth. I was choosing myself. Dr. Hayes' words echoed in my mind. Let guilt be the visitor, not the tenant. I reached for my chamomile tea, but my hands were trembling too hard to pick it up. Then another message from Loretta appeared. Just 5 words. Tasha, you are dead to me. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred, and then, shockingly, nothing. No rupture, no collapse. Just a slow, easing exhale that felt like a decade-long weight sliding off my back. I'm okay, I whispered to myself, to Jamal, to the quiet room that finally felt like mine. But even as calm settled over me, a new question crept in at the edges of my mind. If they were willing to cut me off so easily, what else were they planning now that the money had stopped? And the answer was waiting for me the very next morning on my doorstep. I woke up the next morning to a dull, rhythmic thudding, soft but persistent, like someone knocking with more hesitation than confidence. At first, I thought it was part of a dream, but then I heard Jamal shift beside me, grumbling as he sat up. "You expecting somebody this early?" It was barely 7 a.m. "No," I whispered, already sliding out of bed. A familiar tension crept up my spine, the kind that came from years of being startled by emergencies that were never mine but always became mine. I wrapped my robe around me and approached the front door cautiously. Through the peephole, I saw a figure I recognized instantly. Broad shoulders, worn denim jacket, graying beard. Uncle Ray. Relief washed over me so suddenly, I had to brace my hand against the door before opening it. "Morning, niece," he said with a tired smile. "Sorry to come by unannounced." "It's okay," I stepped aside quickly. "Come in. Is everything all right?" He shook his head as he stepped over the threshold, carrying a stack of folders tucked against his side. "No, baby, I can't say that it is." Those words alone were enough to stiffen my shoulders. Jamal joined us in the living room, still pulling on a t-shirt, offering Ray a quiet greeting before sitting beside me. Uncle Ray stayed standing, as if sitting might anchor him too heavily to what he came to say. "They gone," he said simply. "Your parents. Destiny too." I blinked. "Gone where?" "Out of state. Early this morning. Packed the truck last night. Drove off before sunrise." I felt the room tilt slowly, like a boat shifting on uncertain waves. "And they didn't leave anything? No message, no—" "They left something," Ray said, his jaw tightening. He set the folders down on my coffee table one by one. These were shoved on top of the trash bins outside their place. My stomach knotted. Carefully, I opened the first folder. Receipts, statements, letters, all the paperwork I'd organized for them, years' worth. The physical evidence of how deeply I had stitched myself into the seams of their lives. But then I saw something else. Mail. Addressed to me. Unopened. My breath caught. Why? Why would my mail have been there? I figured you might want to ask them yourself, but they cut out so fast, I doubt they'd answer. I flipped through the stack, terror curling inside me. Credit card offers, a tax notice, medical bills from an ER visit I didn't remember, all addressed to my name, but sent to their home. "When did this start?" I whispered. From the looks of it, 2 years ago, maybe more. My pulse pounded in my ears. They had been receiving my important documents, keeping them, hiding them, ignoring them. I swallowed hard as a deeper truth set in. They hadn't just been using my money, they'd been using my identity. Jamal leaned forward. "Tasha, baby, breathe." I tried. I really did. But my chest swelled with a wave of betrayal so intense it was almost dizzying. "They said they needed space," I murmured, staring down at the pile of papers. "But they were already gone. Already leaving." "Yeah, and they didn't want you to know until they were out of reach." I sat back, numbness spreading through my hands. "Why would they do this to me?" My voice cracked. "I paid for everything. I helped with everything. Why wasn't that enough?" Ray's expression softened in that sad way older men have when they've seen too much disappointment in the world. Because people who take without limit never believe they're taking. They think they're owed.
A painful silence settled between us. Ray continued, I came here because I didn't want you thinking they left clean. They didn't. They left mess behind, but it ain't yours to fix anymore. I opened my mouth, but another realization hit me so hard, it stole my breath. If they moved out of state, that meant every account I'd been paying, the house, the utilities, the insurance, was now attached to an address they no longer lived in. And when those payments stopped in 30 days, everything would default. They're about to make me look like the villain. To the family. To whoever asks, they'll say I abandoned them in a financial crisis. They already are, Ray admitted. Word in the family group chat is, you chose money over your blood. It shouldn't have hurt, but it did. Deep. I straightened slowly, something cold and resolute forming in my chest. Well, if they want distance, they're getting it. Fully. Ray nodded, as if he'd been waiting for that shift. Good. But before you lock that door behind you, baby girl, there's one more thing you need to see. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a single, crumpled envelope. Handwritten. My name on the front. Found it in the front yard, looked like it got dropped during the move. I took it carefully, my fingers trembling. Loretta's handwriting. As I lifted the flap, Jamal placed his hand on my back, steady and warm. Inside was a short note, only 2 sentences. But the last one made my entire body go cold. We love you, but you forced our hand. Don't contact us again unless you're ready to apologize for the damage you caused. I stared at the paper, my vision blurring as my throat tightened. They weren't just leaving. They were rewriting the story. And I knew, right then, that whatever came next, I was nearly prepared enough for it.
I didn't cry. Not when Ray left, not when Jamal wrapped his arms around me and told me I wasn't alone, not even when I sat at the dining table surrounded by proof, physical proof, that my family had been quietly cutting me out long before they ever said the words. But when I finally stood up to throw away the trash bag of crumpled folders and unopened mail, something small and strange happened. One of the envelopes slipped free and drifted to the floor like a feather. It was light pink, the kind you'd use for a baby shower or a wedding invitation. I picked it up, confused, because it had no address, only my name written in Destiny's bubbly handwriting, the same handwriting she used to leave me notes asking for money. Inside was a printed flyer, a luxury apartment complex, newly built, floor-to-ceiling windows, rooftop pool, move-in special, waive deposit with referral. The referral name at the bottom was Destiny's. My hand tightened on the paper. This wasn't new. This wasn't accidental. She had been planning to move out of state for months, using me to pave the way, then discard me when she thought I wasn't useful anymore. She never needed my help, I whispered. She expected it. Jamal watched me from across the room, his brow drawn with concern. Want to sit down? No. I folded the flyer sharply. I need to think. Because a new question was forming, one that made my skin crawl. If they were planning to leave, had they ever intended to take responsibility for those accounts? Or had they just assumed the bills would keep auto-deducting from my paycheck until the end of time? My stomach twisted. Of course they had assumed that. I had made it easy. Too easy. I went back to the table, pulled the folders closer, and began sorting through every stray document. Color-coded, labeled, organized. It was the only way I could steady my breathing. And in the middle of a stack of utilities, I found something that made my heart stop. A notice from an energy company. Address in their state, not the one they lived in before. An activation date, a deposit. Paid by me. I blinked hard. Once. Twice. I didn't set this up, I whispered. Jamal leaned over my shoulder. What is that? They opened a new account using my info.
I couldn't feel my fingers. The paper felt weightless, unreal. They used me to start utilities for their new place. My voice broke on the last word. Jamal's jaw tightened. Tasha, this is identity theft. This isn't just crossing boundaries. This is illegal. But all I could hear was my mother's voice from childhood. Family helps family. That's what we do. And my father's, don't embarrass us by acting like we're strangers. And Destiny's, teasing laugh. You're the responsible one. That's why you handle things. They weren't strangers. They were users. The realization hit with a physical force, so strong I had to grip the table edge to steady myself. Because for years, I had thought they were flawed, stressed, struggling. But this was calculated. This was convenience wrapped in love language. Tasha, you can't fix this for them. I let out a hollow laugh. I can't fix it because they don't want it fixed. They want it funded. The truth settled like dust in my lungs, thick and suffocating. I had spent my whole life being the glue that held everything together, and they had treated me like tape, useful only until it lost its stickiness. Suddenly, my phone buzzed on the table. A new message from an unknown number. This is a courtesy reminder. Your payment for Unit 204 is due on the 15th. The room spun slowly. A tilt I felt deep in my bones. Jamal stepped closer. Unit 204? That's not your unit. That's not even your... I know, I whispered, staring at the screen like it was a living thing. It's theirs. They had given my number, my email, my financial info, my identity. And now the landlords in whatever state they had run to fully expected me to pay their bills. A sharp metallic taste filled my mouth, fear mixed with fury. I deleted nothing. I screenshotted everything. And for the first time in my life, I said the words out loud. They didn't just abandon me, Jamal. They tried to take me with them. He put his hands on my shoulders, grounding me. So what are you going to do? I closed my eyes. There was only one answer. I'm going to protect myself. But the moment the words left my mouth, my phone buzzed again, this time with a text so long I could see the preview stretching across 3 lines. From Loretta. And when I opened it, my entire body went rigid. You need to stop whatever stories you're spreading. You caused this. You drove us away. If you don't fix what you broke, things will get worse for you than you realize. A threat, a warning, a declaration. My breath caught because they weren't cutting me off. They were escalating, and I had no idea just how far they were willing to go next. I must have read my mother's text 10 times before the meaning finally settled like a stone in my stomach. Things will get worse for you than you realize. It wasn't frustration. It wasn't emotional lashing out. It was a warning, cold, intentional, and delivered with the confidence of someone who believed they still had power over me. Jamal took the phone gently from my hand. This isn't normal anger, Tasha. This is manipulation with intent. I know, I whispered, but this feels different. Like she thinks she has leverage. I didn't know what that leverage might be yet, but I felt the dread curling up my spine, a slow, icy climb. Before I could spiral, I did what I've learned to do when reality feels too big. I focused on what I could control. I started by logging into every account I handled for them, one by one. And what I found tightened that dread into something almost painful. Electric, gas, internet, their old rent portal, insurance. Every single account had my name listed as the primary, and every single one still had active auto payments linked to my bank account. I'd already announced I was canceling payments in 30 days, but seeing it all laid out, seeing how deeply they had threaded themselves through my financial life, I felt something break open inside me. A realization both terrifying and liberating. I should have stopped this years ago. No, Jamal corrected softly, pulling me closer. They shouldn't have built their lives on your back. He kissed my forehead, grounding me again. We're going to get you protected, all the way. So we spent the next hour locking down everything. Password changes, two-factor authentication, freezing my credit, calling customer service agents to remove my name. Some were sympathetic. Some clearly thought I'd been careless. Maybe I had been. Maybe I'd mistaken exploitation for duty for so long that I didn't know where their needs ended and mine were supposed to begin. But by the time we finished, my body felt shaky with adrenaline. My mind was buzzing. And then, right when I thought I had regained a small sense of control, my phone rang. It was an unknown number again. You learn to recognize tones before words. My mother's tone was unmistakable. Clipped, controlled, brimming with condescension. So that's how it's going to be. She said no greeting, no breath, just accusation wrapped in parental authority. You're scrambling around shutting us out like we're enemies. I'm protecting myself, I said evenly. You left the state. You didn't tell me. You used my information. You offered help. She cut in sharply. Years ago, I corrected. Not for new apartments in another state. Not for utilities under a name you didn't ask to use. That's not how family works. No, I said softly. That's not how you work. You've mistaken access for love. The silence on the line was chilling. Then she said something that made my hand tighten around the phone. You think you're safe just because you canceled some bills? Tasha, everything we've done because you couldn't handle life without being needed. My breath caught. She wasn't angry I cut them off financially. She was angry I was no longer under her control. You're wrong, I said, my voice finally steady. I don't need to be needed. I need to be respected. Her laugh was cold, humorless, the kind that scraped down the back of my neck. Well, good luck with that. Elijah is telling the family everything. They all know you sabotaged us. You'll be lucky if anyone takes your side. I closed my eyes as a strange calm washed over me. I don't need a side. I just need peace. Oh, you'll have peace. Soon. When the consequences hit. My eyes snapped open. What consequences? But she hung up. Jamal watched me, tension etched into every line of his face. What did she say? I swallowed hard. She's planning something. His jaw clenched. Then we get ahead of it. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. A message this time. Unknown number. This is a confirmation that your application is under review. We will contact you if additional documents are needed. Attached was a PDF. A rental application. With my name on it. My breath stuttered. That's not mine. I didn't apply for anything. Jamal leaned in, his eyes widening. Tasha, they used your identity again. I opened the PDF with trembling fingers. New city, new apartment complex. Move-in date, 2 weeks from now. And worst of all, a forged signature. My signature. I need to call Dr. Hayes. I need to call someone. Jamal put his hands on my shoulders. Call whoever you need, but look at me. This isn't your fault. This is survival. My phone buzzed again. This time, a new group chat invitation from Family Matters. Elijah had added 12 relatives. My pulse pounded. The preview read, "Before you hear lies from her, let us explain what she did to us." My chest tightened. It was starting. The smear campaign. The rewriting of history. And I had no idea how far they were prepared to drag my name through the mud. But I knew one thing. I wasn't running anymore. Not from them. Not from the truth. Not from myself.
I didn't open the family group chat. I couldn't. Not yet. Just seeing the preview, those words hinting that my own parents were gearing up to destroy my reputation, made my stomach twist so violently I had to sit down. Jamal hovered nearby like he was afraid I might faint. "Tasha," he said gently, "you don't have to read it." "I do," I whispered, "because whatever they're accusing me of, they're doing it publicly, and they're hoping I stay silent so their version becomes the truth." But my hand refused to tap the screen. Every instinct inside me, the little girl who had been trained to keep the peace, to smooth tension, to protect her parents' feelings above her own, was screaming at me to let it go, to pretend nothing was happening.
But I wasn't that girl anymore. I opened the chat. The first message was Elijah's. Before anyone reaches out to Tasha, understand that she chose to abandon her family in a time of crisis. She cut off support without warning, knowing we were struggling. She lied about helping us and is now spreading stories to make us look like villains. My breath hitched. Then Loretta chimed in. We asked her for space because of the disrespect. Instead, she retaliated by cutting off everything, including essentials. We raised that girl better than to act like this. My eyes blurred for a moment, and I blinked hard. Then Destiny jumped in, predictably dramatic. She's been acting brand new ever since she got that good job, always throwing it in our faces. Y'all don't know how mean she can be. I'm honestly scared of her at this point. Scared of me. That lie was so big, I almost laughed. But the next message wasn't from my parents. It was from my Aunt Carol. Tasha, is this true? Another relative chimed in. Why would you do something like that to your own parents? The accusations kept coming, one after another, piling up like bricks meant to bury me alive. My heart hammered, but my voice, when it finally escaped, was steady. This is why they left. Not for peace, not for space, to get ahead of the story, to make sure everyone saw me as the ungrateful daughter before I could show the truth. Tasha, Jamal knelt in front of me, placing his hand over mine. You don't have to convince them. You don't owe them a defense. But he didn't understand, not fully, because this wasn't just about reputation. This was about identity. All my life, I had been the reliable one, the responsible one, the good daughter. And now my parents were painting me as a heartless villain. And they knew exactly how Black families work. Whoever speaks first shapes the story. And they had spoken loud. I swallowed hard, forcing my shaking hands to pick up my phone again. I typed slowly, deliberately. I will not debate lies in a group setting. I supported my family financially for years, far beyond what most would ever do. I have screenshots, receipts, and documentation to support everything. I will not tolerate manipulation or defamation. I hovered over the send button. Then I deleted it. Not because I doubted myself, but because I realized something painful and crystal clear. These people had already chosen their side, and it wasn't mine. Instead, I typed, I wish you all peace. I will not be participating in this conversation. And then, before I could change my mind, I left the group. The moment I exited, my phone exploded with notifications, direct messages from multiple relatives. Why are you acting guilty? If you didn't do anything wrong, why leave? Your mother is crying. Your father is heartbroken. Guilt clawed at my ribs, sharp, familiar, insidious. I clenched my jaw. No, not this time. I turned off message previews and set my phone face down on the table. But leaving the chat didn't mean the fallout was over. Not even close. Because an hour later, as I was trying to breathe through the tension squeezing my chest, my phone buzzed with a voicemail notification from my father. I pressed play. His voice was cold, controlled, practiced. You think leaving the chat means you won the argument? You think you can just walk away from your family and we won't respond? You have no idea the trouble you're making for yourself. Fix this, Tasha, or you'll regret it. I felt the air leave my lungs. Not sorrow, not fear, but something else, something deeper, heavier, older, exhaustion. Jamal saw my expression and took the phone from my hand. He threatened you. I know. We can report this. We should report this. I know. But my body felt like it was drifting. My thoughts cloudy. Suddenly, memories flooded me. My father standing over me with that same tone when I was a teenager, reprimanding me for questioning him, insisting respect meant silence. And I realized with a painful clarity, this wasn't new behavior. This was who they had always been. And I had been too loyal, too hopeful, too conditioned to see it. Before I could process the emotional collapse happening inside me, my phone buzzed again, an email notification this time, from my job's HR department. My breath froze. Subject line, urgent, concerning inquiry received. For a long moment, I couldn't move, couldn't blink, couldn't even breathe. Jamal leaned in, eyes wide. Tasha, open it. My fingers trembled as I tapped the email, and when I saw what was inside, my entire world tipped sideways because someone had contacted my employer, pretending to be me, and the message they sent could cost me my job.
I stared at the email from HR so long my eyes began to blur. At first, I thought I was reading it wrong, projecting my worst fears onto something mundane. But no, the words were there, sharp and undeniable, cutting through my chest with surgical precision. We received your request to update your direct deposit and add an alternate contact for urgent payroll matters. Before we proceed, we need verbal confirmation that this inquiry came directly from you. My heart stopped. Alternate contact. Elijah S. Coleman. My father's full name. Jamal exhaled a string of curses under his breath. They tried to get access to your income. My pulse pounded so hard I felt it behind my eyes. They didn't just try. They used my personal information. Again. I could barely process the rest of the email. Please schedule a call with our team today to verify the legitimacy of this request. For your protection, all changes are on hold until we confirm your identity. It was happening. My worst nightmare. A place I had worked for nearly a decade, where I built my entire professional reputation, was now being dragged into my family's chaos. My sanctuary was no longer safe. Jamal took my phone gently, like it was a live wire. You need to call HR right now, before they think you're involved. But my throat was too tight to speak. My mind spiraled, replaying every moment in the past month. Every boundary I tried to set, every line they stepped over, every warning sign I ignored because I kept clinging to the fragile hope that family, even flawed, selfish family, would never destroy me. But here they were, reaching into my workplace, weaponizing my career against me. Tasha. Jamal cupped my face in his hands. Stay with me. Breathe. You didn't do anything wrong. They're the ones committing fraud. I nodded, but tears stung my eyes. Not because I felt weak, but because I finally understood the magnitude of their desperation. They weren't just hurt. They weren't angry. They were attempting to financially reattach themselves to me by force, like parasites finding a new way to latch on. I'll call. I managed finally, my voice barely recognizable. I dialed HR and explained everything, slowly, clearly, professionally, though my hands trembled so badly I had to hold the phone with both. The representative listened carefully, typing furiously on her end. Thank you for letting us know, Ms. Coleman. We have flagged your account. No changes will be processed without in-person verification. Whoever contacted us provided your employee ID number. They wouldn't have that unless they had access to your personal documents. I squeezed my eyes shut. That meant the mail Uncle Ray found, my tax forms, my employment paperwork. That wasn't just negligence, it was strategy. Additionally, HR continued, we received several emails asking about your schedule. At the time, it appeared to be from your address, but now I'm concerned. She paused. Ms. Coleman, is there any chance that someone in your family is impersonating you? That was the moment my voice broke. Yes, I whispered. There's a chance. I hung up eventually, after confirming my identity, after locking down access, after making an appointment to speak with a fraud specialist. When I set the phone down, my hands finally gave out. Jamal caught me before my knees hit the floor. They're escalating, he said quietly. They're trying to make you lose everything so you'll come crawling back. The truth of it landed heavy in my chest. They want me dependent again, I said, my voice trembling with fury and grief. They want leverage. You're not giving them that, he said firmly. I nodded, but my body felt hollow, scraped clean. And then, because the universe has a twisted sense of timing, my phone buzzed again. A text. From my mother.
as if she had been waiting for the exact moment I was already bleeding internally. You didn't think you could cut us off and walk away clean, did you? My breath hitched. Another text followed immediately. If you come home and apologize, we can fix this before it gets uglier. Uglier. The word slithered under my skin. This is abuse, Jamal said, his voice low and dark. This is outright emotional abuse. And financial. And identity. And reputational. But it wasn't just those things. It was betrayal on a level I didn't have language for. I sat down on the couch, staring ahead at nothing. For the first time since this entire ordeal began, I felt something shift inside me. Not breaking, but hardening, like a layer of steel forming over raw wounds. I need to call Dr. Hayes before I make a mistake. Jamal stayed beside me as I made the call. My therapist didn't sound surprised. Concerned, yes, but not shocked. She listened carefully, then said something that hit me like truth shaped into a knife. Tasha, your parents aren't reacting to your distance. They're reacting to their loss of control. People who rely on manipulation escalate when their influence disappears. I swallowed hard. Your job contacting you is a red flag. This is the beginning of an identity boundary violation. You need to document everything and consider protective measures. But they're my family, I whispered, even though the word no longer felt familiar. Family doesn't entangle your livelihood. Family doesn't impersonate you. Family doesn't punish you for prioritizing your well-being. My voice broke again, but this time with anger, not grief. I don't know who they are anymore. You do, she corrected gently. You're just seeing it clearly for the first time. When I hung up, I felt steadier. Not healed, not calm, but anchored by truth. And that truth deepened when the doorbell rang unexpectedly. Jamal and I exchanged a look. I stood slowly. When I opened the door, no one was there. Just a single envelope on my welcome mat. My name. No return address. My blood ran cold because I recognized the handwriting instantly. Elijah. And inside there was a photocopy of something I never expected to see. My Social Security card, with a note scribbled beside it. Stop acting like you're untouchable. My knees nearly buckled. They weren't just threatening me. They were telling me exactly what they still had access to and what they were willing to do next. The envelope trembled in my hands, not because it was heavy. No, it felt weightless in the worst way. But the implication, the message behind it, that had enough weight to crush bone. My Social Security card. A photocopy. A reminder. A threat. Jamal took one look and swore under his breath. They're playing with fire, Tasha. This is federal. But I couldn't speak. My throat clamped shut as memories, decades old, rose like smoke in a burning room. My father lecturing me about obedience. My mother telling me to be grateful for the roof they provided. Destiny bragging about how she always got out of consequences because Daddy loves me best. And now all three of them were showing me exactly how far that entitlement could stretch. Tasha. Jamal stepped closer, gently trying to take the paper from me. Let me hold it. No, I whispered. I need to see it. Because there, stamped lightly in the corner of the photocopy, was a date. 2 months ago. They had made the copy 2 months ago. Long before the arguments, long before the group text, long before the so-called distance. They had planned this. They had prepared for this. Tasha, sit down, he urged. But I couldn't move. My legs felt frozen, like my body was refusing to let me escape the moment until I understood the full depth of the betrayal. This wasn't impulsive. This wasn't emotional. This wasn't a family fight. This was premeditated exploitation. I finally managed to whisper. They were preparing to use my identity. Before I even said no, before I set a single boundary. My voice cracked. They expected me to stay silent and compliant forever. As soon as I said it out loud, I felt the room tilt slightly, but enough for my knees to finally bend. Jamal guided me to the couch, sitting beside me like he was afraid I might break apart if he let go. I need to report this, I said, the words scraping out of me like gravel. Yes, Jamal agreed immediately. We call the fraud line, the police if needed. You're not handling this alone. He grabbed his laptop, ready to start filing reports, but I lifted my hand weakly. Wait. Because something else had caught my eye, written faintly on the back of the photocopy. A second message, almost like an afterthought. Keep ignoring us and see what happens. My breath left me in a pained rush. Jamal froze. They're threatening you, again. I finally met his eyes, and what he saw there made his shoulders drop. Not fear, but devastation mixed with something else. Recognition. Recognition that the family I had worshipped, protected, excused, justified, and financially carried weren't victims of circumstance. They were perpetrators of abuse. Tasha, he said softly, this isn't just about boundaries anymore. This is about safety. I know. For real. Your emotional safety, your financial safety, your career, everything. I know, I repeated, voice hollow. I didn't want to believe it. He placed a hand on my knee. But you see it now. I nodded faintly, because denial was no longer an option. My therapist's voice echoed in my mind again. What we refuse to accept at first often becomes the truth that finally frees us. I swallowed hard. I need to freeze everything. All accounts, all credit, everything. You already froze the credit, Jamal reminded me. No, I said, shaking my head. I mean everything that can be used to track me or impersonate me. Addresses, contact info, banks. I need digital locks on my life. Jamal nodded, already opening tabs, credit monitoring, identity protection, fraud reporting. But before he could get far, my phone buzzed again. I flinched. He reached for it first. Let me check. But I grabbed his wrist. No, I whispered. I need to see this one. It was from Aunt Carol, the same aunt who'd questioned me in the family group. Baby, call me, please. I don't know what's happening, but Elijah just posted your social security number in the chat by accident. A screenshot. It was only up for a minute, but enough people saw it. I'm so sorry. My body went ice cold. Jamal inhaled sharply. Tasha, I whispered. Numb. He leaked my social. Not by true accident, not by mistake, not by clumsiness, by strategy, by violence disguised as family frustration. Forgive me, no, scratch that. Shame on me for thinking they couldn't sink lower. A minute later, 2 more messages came through. First from a cousin I hadn't spoken to since Destiny's graduation. Girl, what is going on? People are talking. Then another, Someone just tried to use your SSN to apply for a loan on a used car. Is everything okay? The room started spinning. Jamal grabbed my hand. Tasha, this is identity theft in real time. But I didn't hear the rest. Because in that exact moment, my phone rang again. A number I recognized this time. My bank. And the second I answered, the representative's words punched the air out of my lungs. Miss Coleman, we're calling to verify a large withdrawal request made under your name. My heart dropped. A withdrawal? I croaked. Yes, a request for $4,800 from your savings account. We flagged it because it was attempted from an out-of-state branch. Shall we deny it? My mouth opened, but no sound came out. $4,800. My parents' exact monthly average of bills. It wasn't random. It was intentional. Calculated. And it meant one horrifying thing. They were actively trying to empty my bank account. Jamal had to answer for me because I couldn't speak. Deny it, he snapped. Shut down the account. Freeze everything now. The rep confirmed. I hung up, hands trembling violently, my heart beating in frantic, painful bursts. For a long time, I couldn't do anything except stare straight ahead, my mind racing through every memory, every sacrifice, every dollar, every guilt trip, every family helps family, every don't question us, every you owe us. I finally whispered, they want to financially destroy me. Jamal squeezed my hand. And they're failing? No, I said, shaking my head slowly. They haven't failed. Not yet. They're not done. Because people who see you as a resource, they don't stop when you say no. They stop when they exhaust every path to get what they want. And I had a sickening feeling that the worst was still coming. But I wasn't the same woman I had been at the beginning of this story. I was learning what survival looked like, up close, raw, unfiltered. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't running towards them. I was preparing to defend myself from them.
The next 48 hours felt like walking barefoot across broken glass. Every step forward slicing some new, tender part of me I didn't even know I had. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw numbers, documents, screenshots, or I heard my mother's voice saying, "Things will get worse for you than you realize." And she was right, because the damage they caused didn't hit all at once. It came in waves, slow, rising, relentless. The morning after the attempted withdrawal from my savings, I woke up to a cascade of alerts. Credit monitoring notification number 1. A new inquiry has been added to your credit report. An electronics store, out of state. Notification number 2. A new account application has been submitted with your social security number. A payday loan company. Notification number 3. Suspicious activity detected. Please verify recent applications. Each alert hit me like a blow to the ribs. Jamal was still asleep when I sat up in bed, the screen's glow washing over my face in the dark. My hands trembled as I read each alert again, just to make sure I wasn't imagining it. But I wasn't. They were still trying to steal my identity, frantically, aggressively, like they were racing against a clock. Like they knew I was closing the windows one by one, and they were slipping their hands through every remaining crack before it slammed shut. I covered my mouth to steady myself, but a sound escaped anyway. Something small, wounded, and unfamiliar. Jamal startled awake instantly. "Tasha, what happened?" I handed him my phone with stiff fingers. His jaw clenched so tightly I heard the faint grind of teeth. "Okay, that's it. This is criminal. Not manipulative, not emotional. Criminal." I nodded, my throat tight. But before I could respond,
The doorbell rang. My heart lurched, cold and sharp. Jamal threw on sweatpants and moved toward the door, but I stopped him. "Wait." My voice cracked. "Look first." He checked the peephole. "It's Ray," he said, relief softening his shoulders. "Thank God." But when he opened the door, one look at Uncle Ray's face told me this wasn't a social visit. His eyes were pained, heavy, like he was carrying news he didn't want to deliver. "Morning, niece," he said quietly. "I need to talk to you, and it ain't good." I swallowed hard. "Come in." Ray stepped inside, removed his hat, and ran his hand over his head in a nervous gesture I'd never seen him before. He didn't sit until I did, like he was preparing to walk me through something delicate. "What happened?" I asked. He exhaled slowly. "Your daddy. He's telling folks you're financially unstable, that you had a breakdown and he's trying to manage your affairs till you get yourself together." My mouth fell open. A cold rush swept down my spine. "What?" I whispered. "Why would he?" "He showed folks a copy of your social," Ray continued, bitterness thick in his voice. "Said it came from you, since you needed help. Said you asked him to handle some things." I felt sick. The room tilted. "That's a lie," I said, breathless. "Ray, that's a complete—" "I know," he said firmly. "I know it's a lie. But people believe a father before they believe a daughter, especially in this family." Tears pricked my eyes, not the soft kind, but the hot, angry kind that come from being deeply, ruthlessly betrayed. Ray leaned forward. "And he ain't stopped there. They've been saying you threatening to press charges if they don't pay you back. They're making it sound like you're extorting them." I pressed my mouth as nausea washed over me. Jamal's face darkened. "They're setting her up." "No," Ray corrected gently. "They're trying to ruin her, get ahead of the story, make her look unstable, greedy, dangerous. So if she ever called the cops or tries to protect herself, folks already doubt her." My breath hitched. "So what do I do?" He hesitated. "You're not gonna like my answer." "Tell me," I whispered. "You need to report them." My chest tightened. "Ray." "No." His voice sharpened. "Listen to me, baby girl. I watched this family use you your whole damn life. But this crossed into places you can't fix with boundaries or talks or distance. Your daddy's dragging your name through the mud. Your mama's sending threats. And Destiny, that girl's been using your info so long she thinks it's her birthright." I stared at him, throat burning. "If you don't protect yourself legally," he said gently, "they will take everything you work for. They will leave you with nothing." The truth of his words stung in my chest, because deep down, I knew he was right. My parents weren't people who made emotional mistakes. They were people who made calculated decisions and expected me to pay for them. And now that I refused, they were retaliating. Jamal placed his hand on my back. "Tasha, it's time. You've tried everything else." I wiped my face, breathing shakily. Okay. You're right." I stood slowly. My legs felt like they were made of splintered glass, but I stood anyway. "I'll report it." Ray nodded, sadly, but with relief. "I'm proud of you, niece." But I wasn't proud. I was heartbroken. And something else, something darker, was creeping in. The realization that my own parents saw me as the enemy, not a daughter, not family, but an obstacle. I looked at Ray. "Is there anything else I should know?" His jaw tightened. He hesitated too long. "Ray," I whispered, "please." He sighed heavily. "They didn't just leave town. They didn't just start over." He reached into his jacket pocket, tapped a video, and then handed it to me. My mother's voice filled the room instantly. A video recording Loretta sitting at a kitchen table in a small apartment I didn't recognize, speaking to someone off camera. When she finds out what we did with those accounts, she's gonna lose it. But that's her fault. She should have never pulled away. She should have remembered who raised her. My body numbed. Ray's voice was soft when he spoke next. They plan to drain you, Tasha. Not out of need, out of punishment. And just like that, any lingering hope I had left, the tiny, fragile scrap of belief that maybe they acted out of hurt or confusion, died completely. I wasn't dealing with family conflict. I was dealing with intentional harm, targeted harm. And I knew, with painful clarity, that if I didn't stand up now, I would never stand again.
I didn't realize I was shaking until I tried to hold Ray's phone and nearly dropped it. My fingers felt numb, my chest tight enough that every breath sounded like it scraped against something raw inside me. Jamal steadied my hand, but even that small kindness nearly undid me. The video was short, less than 30 seconds, but it detonated everything I thought I knew about my parents. Hearing my mother so casually admit they had done something to my accounts wasn't just betrayal. It was confirmation, proof, the missing piece that snapped the entire puzzle into a picture I never wanted to see. And the worst part, the tone of her voice. Calm, almost smug, like she was teaching a lesson to a stubborn child. I handed the phone back to Ray with trembling hands. When did you record that? He sighed deeply. Didn't record it myself. Your cousin Alana sent it to me. She said she overheard Loretta talking and hit record because the whole thing sounded wrong. She didn't want to get in the middle, but she also didn't want you blind. Does she know they left the state? I asked. He nodded. Yeah, they told her they just had to start fresh without your attitude. They're painting a whole picture of you as the villain. My stomach twisted so sharply I had to press my fist against it. I can't believe she said those things about me, about her own daughter. Ray reached out and gripped my shoulder. Believe it. Believe all of it. Because the sooner you accept who they are, the sooner you can protect who you are. I nodded slowly, trying to steady my breathing. Jamal sat beside me, rubbing slow circles on my back, keeping me tethered to the room when my mind wanted to float away just to escape the weight. After a long moment, I asked the question I was scared to say out loud. Ray, do you think they hate me? He shook his head, and for a second I thought he was trying to comfort me. But then he said, No, they don't hate you, baby girl. They need you. And people who need you and can't control you, they can turn mean, real mean. I swallowed hard. So what do I do? You already know. You report them. You protect yourself legally. You stop thinking love means silence. My voice cracked. It's so final. Ray looked at me with eyes that told me he'd lived through his own family's storms. Sometimes final is the only thing that saves you. A stillness settled in my chest. Not peace, but clarity. A hard, unflinching clarity that comes only when you look truth in the face and stop begging it to be something softer. But clarity doesn't make courage magically appear. I still had to dig for it. I'm going to the police, I said, my voice firm despite the quiver beneath it. Jamal nodded immediately. I'll go with you. Ray nodded too. I'll follow behind. Just call me if anything happens. We drove to the station in near silence. My hands shook on and off the whole time, waves of adrenaline pulsing through me. I kept thinking about every sacrifice I'd made, every bill I paid, every lie I swallowed, every time I told myself they'd appreciate me one day. And this was the result. When we reached the station, my legs felt heavy. Jamal squeezed my hand. You're doing the right thing.
His voice was low, steady, the anchor I desperately needed. Inside, the fluorescent lights hummed over us as I filed a report. The officer asked questions, calm, methodical, unemotional, and I answered each one with a mixture of shame, grief, and relief. Has your family used your personal information without permission before? Yes. Are they currently attempting to access your accounts? Yes. Are you in fear of your financial security? Yes. Do you have evidence? Yes. I provided documents, screenshots, emails, the photocopy of my social, the video, every piece of proof I had, even when my hands trembled so hard that the papers rattled. Jamal squeezed my shoulder every time I faltered. When I finished, the officer leaned back in his chair. Miss Coleman, this is serious. You've done the right thing reporting it. We're flagging the file for identity theft and potential financial fraud. He hesitated. I'm sorry this came from your family. And somehow, those words made tears spill silently down my cheeks. Not grief, not pain, just the shock of hearing someone name the truth so plainly. Family! They did this. When we got home, my entire body felt drained, like someone had unplugged every wire inside me. Jamal guided me to the couch, then to bed, but my mind was still spinning. Hours passed, the sky grew darker, and I sat in silence while a storm of memories crashed and tangled inside me. All the times my mother said, "Don't embarrass us." All the times my father said, "Do as you're told." All the times Destiny said, "You're good for it. You always are." And suddenly it hit me like a punch. They never wanted me strong. They wanted me useful. And now that I was no longer useful, they wanted me punished. That night, just after midnight, my phone buzzed again. Jamal stirred beside me, half asleep. You okay? I nodded, even though I wasn't. The message was from an unknown number again. My chest tightened as I opened it. A single line. You think filing a report will save you. My hands turned ice cold. Then another message. You started a war you can't finish. We're family. We'll always have a piece of you. My breath hitched so sharply I nearly choked on it. Because the message wasn't signed. But I knew the voice behind those words. And for the first time in my life, I realized my family wasn't coming back to love me. They were coming back to break me. The next message came in just 30 seconds later. And when I saw it, a chill rolled through me so deep I shivered. It was a photo of me, taken from outside my apartment window, a dark silhouette in the reflection, watching, waiting, close enough to touch. I didn't scream when I saw the photo. I didn't drop the phone. I didn't even wake Jamal. My whole body went still, stone still, because some part of me that had been battered raw over these past few weeks understood instantly. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about control. And I had finally broken free enough for them to panic. My breath hitched as I stared at the image. My living room window, my silhouette, soft under lamplight. And outside, a faint shape, tall, broad, familiar, but blurred in the glass like a nightmare refusing to fully take form. The timestamp on the photo made my stomach twist. It had been taken less than 20 minutes earlier. I swallowed, forcing my breath steady. My hands were trembling so badly my thumb almost slipped when I locked my screen. I placed the phone face down on the nightstand and leaned back slowly, breathing through the cold rush of adrenaline. "Hey," Jamal murmured sleepily, turning toward me. "You good?" I didn't want to worry him, but hiding the truth was what trapped me in this mess in the first place. So I lifted the phone again and showed him the image. His entire expression snapped awake. No grogginess, no confusion, just immediate protective fury. "Get your shoes," he said, swinging his legs out of bed. "We're leaving this apartment tonight." I shook my head. "Jamal, the police." "I'm not waiting on the police to solve what your family just escalated." His voice was harsh, shaking with rage he was barely containing. "They showed up at your home. That's not fraud anymore. That's threat. That's stalking." He wasn't wrong. But another feeling, unexpected and electric, was rising through the fear. Resolve. Not the trembling kind I'd been clinging to before. This was different, stronger, sharper. They want me scared. They want me running. They want me too rattled to fight back. "And?" Jamal asked, grabbing a hoodie. "And I'm done running." He paused, looking at me carefully. "You sure?" "No," I admitted. "But being scared of them hasn't kept me safe. Being quiet hasn't protected me. Being loyal hasn't earned me love. And letting guilt guide me is exactly how they kept access to my life for so long." I stood up and felt a strength in my spine I hadn't felt since before this nightmare began. Maybe not even then. "I'm calling the police. Again. And then I'm filing for a restraining order. Whoever was outside my apartment crossed the last line they will ever cross with me." Jamal nodded slowly, his anger shifting into something steadier. "Then I'm right here with you." We stepped into the living room, the silence thick enough to feel. I kept glancing toward the window, half expecting to see another shadow lurking, but the sidewalk was empty now. Whoever it was had come and gone like a ghost. The police arrived within 20 minutes. A young officer took one look at the image and his whole demeanor changed. "Ma'am, this isn't just harassment. This is predatory behavior. And given the identity theft report already filed, you're dealing with a pattern of escalating misconduct." He asked if I suspected who it might be. My mouth went dry. "Yes," I said. "My family." He didn't flinch. Didn't give me that pitying look people give when they think your story doesn't make sense. He just nodded and wrote everything down. After he left, after the window blinds were shut tight, after the locks were checked twice, Jamal sat beside me on the couch and took my hand. "You don't deserve any of this," he whispered. I looked down at our intertwined fingers, my voice shaking. "But I survived it." He kissed my forehead softly. "More than survived." Maybe he was right, because somewhere in the whirlwind of fear and grief and betrayal, a new truth had formed, clearer than anything my parents ever taught me. Love without respect isn't love. Family without boundaries isn't family. And survival without self-worth is exactly how they kept access to my life for so long. The next morning, I did everything the officer recommended, filed a formal restraining order request, contacted an attorney, enrolled in an identity protection service, froze every account tighter than a vault door, took screenshots of every message, every threat, every attempt they made to erase my sense of safety. And while I worked, I cried. Not because I missed them, but because of everything I had allowed myself to carry for so long, because of the girl inside me that kept hoping that sacrifice would soften their hearts, because of the woman I had become who believed she had no right to stop being used. Around noon, I got a text from Uncle Ray. "You good?" I took a full minute before answering. "I think I will be." He responded with 3 words that felt like a balm on a bruise. "I believe you." A belief I had begged from the wrong people for too many years. Later that night, after the adrenaline faded enough for me to breathe without shaking, I sat alone at my dining table and realized something unexpected. I wasn't waiting for their next message anymore. I wasn't living in fear of their reactions. I wasn't trying to make sense of why they didn't love me the way I loved them. Their distance wasn't abandonment. It was freedom. Their silence wasn't punishment. It was peace. And their betrayal wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of a life I finally had permission to live. So I opened the group chat where all of this began, the one where they told me to stop contacting them, told me I needed distance, told me I wasn't their daughter anymore. I typed a single message. "I'm honoring your request for no contact permanently. All accounts and access have been closed. Do not contact me again. I wish you clarity." Then I blocked every number, every email, every thread tying me to people who saw me as a resource instead of a daughter. When I finished, I let out a breath I didn't even know I'd been holding for years. For the first time in my life, the quiet didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like freedom dressed in silence. A month from now, maybe I'll still feel the sting. Maybe I'll still have moments of grief, but today, standing in the center of my own life without apology, today felt like reclamation. And if someone out there is listening, someone who knows what it's like to be drained dry in the name of family, I hope they hear this part loudest. You are not a villain for walking away from people who set you on fire and called it love. You're a survivor. And I finally am too.
If you learned something new from my life story, please like this video, subscribe to join our community for more stories like mine, and comment down below where you're watching this video from. I'd truly love to know.